Is D.kota.
Like when I forget to actually put on the sound.
I was just about to say that.
Yeah. So, hello everybody. Welcome to the Ember weekly news show
when I forget to
by
actually
Liberalists
put
for
on the
Liberalists.
Well,
Oh, and
for
even more
everyone,
fucking
but,
mistakes
mostly for
now.
liberalists.
Okay, now we should be good.
So, as I was saying, we are joined this week by myself, Shane, recurring host. Matt, the other usual recurring host, has opted to take this week off because of personal reasons. We do not begrudge him that at all. He has more than earned the weekend off. So we are joined by Jorick this week on the controls, hosting the stream.
So expect everything to go even more wrong than it already did. And yes, that's
Double
the second time I had to say that joke.
Oh.
Already off to a fantastic start.
Is it funnier on the second track?
I think so, for us at least.
A little bit. Also joining us this week is D.kota,
Yes, it is.
one of our American correspondents.
God bless it. The USA, not me. Don't bless me. I'm not worthy.
So let's just jump right into it with our first story this week. And this is
Okay, Jorick DeFranco.
about the EU. EU complains new Facebook rules will stop it running ads praising itself. Thank God.
Fantastic.
So many EU advertisements, like you would be surprised on Facebook and such. The EU has complained will be blocked from running glowing adverts praising its works by new Facebook rules. Senior EU figures have written to the social media companies saying its clampdown on foreign political interference will mean it will only be able to promote itself via Facebook and Instagram in Belgium. So, oof for Rambo, but seems like the rest of Europe is finally gonna be free from those fucking ads and that waste of money.
We're breaking the programming!
Bodies such as the EU Commission regularly run taxpayer-funded ads on their Facebook pages, extolling about how the EU allows people to watch streaming services anywhere in the bloc and how it helps citizens set up health, food businesses, and other idiotic arguments that I spent my time at 3 a.m. trying to debunk on their page. Yeah.
This is what happens when you don't have a normal sleep cycle.
Mm-hmm. So yesterday, our good friend Guy Verhofstadt,
yes,
the right honourable gentleman, as they would say in the UK, to the European Parliament's Brexit coordinator warned that the ban could kill pan-European democracy. Okay.
What?
Sounds like a bit hyperbolic. Oh no, we can't run ads, we can't indoctrinate people anymore. This is gonna be the end.
Sorry, if you can't run your propaganda, then your pro-European democracy wasn't worth it in the first place.
I can actually see why you would say that. That's maybe the first thing he said that I agree with.
He added,
Jesus.
The 3 EU institutions call on Facebook to change their rules to recognize the EU as one political space.
I guess this also means that the US can't run their Join the Marines ad, because we get a lot of those ads on TV to join the Marines.
Well, the thing is, and I actually know of this, run most of our the Facebook pages, also for the Dutch group, and I needed to get verified to run ads, and because of that, because we also have members from Belgium, we can also advertise there because we got someone registered, but else, I couldn't advertise in Belgium.
Rip.
Well,
Here's
yeah,
the funny thing. Sorry. I was going to say, if you ask Verhofstadt whether or not he thinks the countries in the EU are nations or if they're states, I wonder what his answer would be.
No, it's nations.
Members.
You know?
No, it's member state, D.kota. Member state.
Member
not
states
yeah.
who are also nation states, who are also states in the traditional sense. Oh, English language.
Mhm. But to continue his the tweet, Facebook's new advertisement policy will prevent European political actors from promoting across Europe and could kill European. Yeah, okay, that's a bit of. Okay. The three EU institutions call on Facebook to change their rules to recognize the EU as one political space. More info.
Here's
Yeah.
the funny thing: it shows how much of a boomer Verhofstadt is, because no one is using Facebook anymore. I mean, not no one, but
A lot less
for
people.
anyone following the trends, people are leaving Facebook in
Mm.
droves.
Yeah, I mean, don't be able to actually reach anyone under the age of 30 on Facebook with ads at least. That's what I've seen. The company's Facebook tied its rules around political adverts following allegations of Russian interference from in the 2016 US presidential election. The company is now implementing the change in Europe ahead of the EU elections in June. The letter, signed by the General Secretaries of the European Parliament, Commission and Council, said General Secretariat, where I've seen that before, of the Council of the European Union, god damn it, for instance, has been using Facebook to inform about the works of the Council across Europe and the world, and the paid ads constitute an important part of that toolbox. Maybe don't waste maybe don't waste my money on showing me your ads.
Nope, pump it full of your money.
Mm-hmm. If the new rules are implemented in their current form, in practice our institutions would no longer be able to promote content on Facebook outside of Belgium. Good.
I would just like to say the old government adage that everyone loves: if they don't spend their entire budget, they won't get more next year.
The weird thing which I find about this is the way at least it worked for me. You needed one person to verify himself with ID to Facebook from each country you want to advertise in. So I don't really get how they would only be able to promote their posts in Belgium.
I'm guessing because they are a political entity that is specifically advocating for um, a one party, or I shouldn't say one party, but a one state solution for all of Europe. It's probably a weird situation in that regard.
Well, we the Dutch group, the Dutch Flemish group, doesn't have the same limitations though.
Well, yeah, but you're not advocating for like you're not specifically advocating for any absolute stance politically, though. You're an educational group, much like LIA are you not?
Well, we're a group.
A collective, if you will.
A collective of individuals. Anyway, I'm not sure exactly what the issue is. Maybe they just have all of their advertising offices in Belgium. Who knows?
Sure, so the letter, which was addressed to Sir Nick Clegg, Facebook's head of global affairs and communications and a former MEP, also warned rules would hinder political campaigning in the June elections. I hope so. I thought I thought they were in May, by the way.
Wait, hold on. How? How would they hinder campaigning in the elections? Aren't MEPs nominated and voted on nationally?
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, you get the word out through advertisements.
Right. But so are we to presume then that the EU would be promoting pro EU candidates in other countries?
I would
Yes.
know. Richard
We
Allen
would be assuming that.
would almost look like that.
I'd be surprised if they weren't. It's
I
not
don't know
illegal.
actually.
Wouldn't
Richard
that
Allen?
be wouldn't that be directly contrary to the will of the people?
Not the will of the elites, and they're the only people that matter. I'm pretty sure that's how that works.
Right.
So, Richard Allen, Facebook's vice president of global policy solutions, said our priority is to safeguard the integrity of elections against foreign interference. They probably cut him off here. I think he meant to say, but not our own.
Yeah, foreign interference, but not member state interference.
Well, you
Not
could also
German
say that
interference.
that Facebook has a pretty big hand in meddling in elections. The absence of uniform rules across the EU poses significant challenges, and our risk analysis showed that us requiring organizations to have a representative in each country where they run ads is important safeguard. We continue to review the risks and how to mitigate them. So, like again, what I said, yeah, even if their advertisement bureaus are in Belgium, they could still just get someone to verify themselves for that page. It literally involves logging in, just giving someone a non-important role, so you can't really do anything to the page, and send your ID to Facebook, which personally, yeah, I didn't really like, but
Giving Facebook more of your own personal information. What could go wrong?
Clearly, nothing went wrong the first time.
Or the second time, or the third time, or the fourth time,
well,
the time with the
Facebook,
selfie.
yeah, Facebook has had some controversies in the past with leaking info. I think one was pretty recent too.
Yeah.
So yeah, giving them that sort of stuff is still, I don't really see how this would be a problem for the EU. Like, guess they are being boomers, or aren't seeing something, or we aren't seeing something.
It's okay. It's okay. Juncker just has to give them his nudes, and then they'll screen every
You think they
post
don't
on
already have
Facebook.
it?
Oof, that's a spicy one. Maybe
I mean,
he
it was in
drunk
their
texted it
policy for
to
a
them.
while.
But
I can't believe that was one of Facebook's policies, man. Give us
Fascinating.
your nudes. We'll search your filters to make sure they're not distributed around.
yeah, that sounded like a trap. It literally did. Next story.
Yeah, let's move on.
Like just for a moment, imagine Facebook not as a corporate entity when they're asking you for that, but imagine it as Mark Zuckerberg himself asking you for your
You mean lizard suck?
Can I
lizard
not?
with two C's.
I don't want to picture that man licking his eyeballs as he stares at someone naked.
Oh, this article. Ooh,
Hmm?
excited.
Yeah, definitely. So, stop scarring children witless about climate change. Teachers should educate children about climate, not terrify them about the apocalypse. To start off, we have a picture here of Greta Thunberg. As far as I know, she has Asperger's, OCD, and I've also heard she had a history of harming herself, which is quite common with those with Asperger's and OCD. But telling telling such a kid that the world is gonna end unless she does something should be considered fucking child abuse. Like
I don't know about that.
well,
I mean, just living in a home dealing with poverty alone, it would be then tantamount as well.
you shouldn't tell kids something like that.
Absolutely.
Especially someone with Asperger's and OCD, which makes change a very scary thing for people like that.
And what's more of a change than burning in hell?
Mm-hmm.
That is the earth.
So, not many people can command an audience of senior politicians. Fewer still can expect cheers and standing ovation from those they have just publicly criticized. Yet this was the reception 16-year-old Greta Thunberg received when she addressed MPs and journalists in Westminster this week. Your voice, still calm and clear, is like the voice of our conscience, Environment Secretary Michael Gove told her, praying for absolution.
We're not worthy. We're not worthy.
Like
Looks
this,
like
this just makes me sad, you know? Like, it's politicians using a child to advance their political goals, and
what else is new?
it's not something new, but
I mean, just watch what happened with the Parkland survivors over here. It's disgusting.
definitely,
No, but you don't understand. She's 16. That means she should be old enough to vote in America, according to
Also,
people.
she's a woman, or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Whoa.
A little girl, but
I mean, I definitely think she dresses younger than she probably should for 16, I guess.
Oh yeah, and a part of that could be that, of course, the younger you look, the better it is for this case. But
yeah, that's
she
true.
also has Asperger's and OCD, so it just could be that she dresses young because she likes that.
Entirely possible, and I mean it's her free choice to dress however she wants. I'm just
Exactly.
saying,
This is a strange topic.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it definitely is, because
Climate
let's
change.
move on to the actual climate change
Mhm.
part.
when it comes to climate change, the normal rules of politics and the usual ways that adults relate to children have all been abandoned. Adults, it seems, now defer to children.
Sure,
And
they do.
yeah, and that's the thing. It's really hard to criticize a child like that.
Because you're oppressing the children.
Mm-hmm.
Oh God, not this again.
So school children who skip classes to protest against climate change have been widely praised. Yeah, here too. Again, it has been MPs who've rushed to lead the applause. Some head teachers, quick to fine parents for taking their children on holiday during term time, were happy to overlook pupils missing lessons to join the Tonsberg-inspired climate strike. And yeah, to talk about this, it's also the case here, but the controls, especially where I live, aren't as hard, but in some regions they are. And for example, if you want to take your kids out of the season on a vacation because you're on benefits and else you just can't pay to go on vacation in the high season, you can get really bad fines for pulling your kid out of school. But week after week going to protest for the climate during school hours is all of a sudden fine. You're not treating those two the same. The same rule has been broken.
I mean, it could be that it's not actually fine, but there's so many people that are actually doing it that in order to actually enforce it effectively, it would cost too much.
We know that's not what.
Oh no, the fines are pretty high, dude. They would definitely get some money back.
Sure, but then you'd make the problem is legally. Then you could make the case for them not going after some people when they know that so many people have actually been committing this.
Mm-hmm.
It's usually the problem with group demonstrations when you do things in front of the police. If you have so many people and the police only arrest some of them, then they have.
Well, it's not a case of arresting them. It's a case of them missing school.
I think
the parents are held liable is the problem.
I think he's talking about the teachers, not the students.
No,
like
teachers
liable.
Teachers would both be liable as well as the parents, I think. That would be the case in the US anyway.
So, meanwhile, some parents and teachers joined children in the protest, not content with letting children bunk off school. There are growing calls for more lesson time in school to be given over to teaching about climate change. to talk about that. I know this is of course a story about the UK. I can tell some of my. I mean, I'm currently in high school, so I can about a quarter of the time spent in some courses is spent on climate change already. And I don't know how this is for the UK, but you get bombarded with it, like little stupid projects about making a journey with the least amount of CO2, things like that.
I mean, is it within context of the subjects? Is it like laced throughout the lesson
Oh,
plan, or is it like
definitely.
dedicated times for?
I don't think we would be seeing demonstrations this big about how the world is going to end from kids if it wasn't already deep in the curriculum.
I find it strange that to have something in the curriculum, kids getting excited for in the. I feel like in the U.S., if kids are getting taught something in school, they definitely don't want to be standing around yelling about it because no one likes public schools over here.
Well,
That's that has me a little bit questioning the validity of kids actually wanting to come out and protest.
Yeah, and I
It
mean,
feels like it could probably be an excuse to just not go to
no,
school,
I'm
or
I'm
the
cur-
teachers are
okay.
pressuring.
I'm currently in high school, so at least here we also had some pretty big climate protests, and I would say about 80% of the people, at least on my school, who went for the day off or just smoke weed in Amsterdam. Like people were making big groups were making plans to go there just purely to, oh nice, a day off.
imagine my shock. School
Yeah,
kids playing hooky in order to be, you know,
to get high.
In order to just to yell loudly and smoke weed.
Hmm. So, petition demanding climate change be made a core part of the national curriculums, started by 4 Oxford schoolgirls, again with the using little girls for for your political gain, has rapidly gained close to 70,000 signatures.
oh
The,
boy.
yeah, the girls argue that climate change is the biggest issue of our time and must be a part of our education if our generation is to understand it and help us combat its effects. Yeah, I mean, I would be surprised if they really don't get teach that much because it is an important. Well, it get laced between things here, and it can be a thing on its own. So
Here's the thing. I don't have a problem with people teaching about climate change, that it's an issue, and trying to understand how to combat it. But shouldn't discussions about it also be focused around practical efforts to help combat it
hmm
instead of just protests and demonstrations?
Nuclear.
yeah, I would love someone to actually have told me something about nuclear energy. And me not having to look at that shit on our own because I do think if what they're saying is right, which can be debated, our only option is nuclear because solar panels, well, especially panels and wind energy, just isn't an efficient form of generating energy.
Well,
Not efficient enough.
there's efficiency issues, there's issues with how much energy it takes and how much
hmm
harm done to the environment is caused by creating the panels.
Yeah, you can't currently run a whole grid on renewable energy had, because it's not the same current all the time. The energy network's pretty complicated, and you always need to put in the same amount, or you always need to put in the power people want. So you,
Yeah, you have to keep the draw that is coming from the grid
mhm,
equalized, otherwise you get brownouts and blackouts.
yep,
The big thing I'm bothered by is like people are talking about what we can do in terms of fighting it and like terms of energy solutions. I want to see people talking about engineering solutions and ways to deal with stuff like the Pacific plastic
Like,
island.
here's the thing about teaching this stuff to the kids. You have to actually explain to them why climate change is happening and what you can actually do to solve the situation. But they're just kids, people will say. You can't just explain to them how nuclear works. Well, then don't give them propaganda without proper context. You got to give them the information. If you can't give them the information, then don't give them the information. You're misleading the kids by not giving them the whole story.
True.
That's the frustrating part for me.
If you can't give them the whole story, if you can't give them the context of what's going on, if you can't give them the means to understand and try to work to build a solution to the problem that is both reasonable and realistic, then don't slam them with propaganda.
I mean, what do they think that the kids are coming home with? The idea, oh, well, we just have to get together and protest. That's a solution in and of itself.
We have to totally shut down the economy for 5 to 10 years, give the state all the power to build a network and rebuild our whole society to renewable standards, even though we don't currently have the technology. But
it's madness.
And even if that would be the case, I would rather take the chance of them being right and 100, 200 million people dying than these people taking over and for sure killing 100, 200 million people as we've seen in the past.
Well, let's just let the floodwaters take us, or we can hire the Dutch to build everyone a bunch of dikes.
Yeah, definitely. We'll build some dikes for money.
Heck yeah.
I mean, we're already doing that. We have already done that in the past too in America. Helped you
Your
guys.
Number one export will be dikes in 2050, clearly.
Climate change would be really good for business.
I don't pretend that climate change couldn't cause catastrophic weather events and more problems for the rest of the world, and that may displace and harm potentially millions. But I'm willing to bet that there will be people who engineer solutions to those problems because there's a market to engineer solutions to those problems.
Well, sure, but you gotta keep in mind that the market isn't instantaneous. Things are going to happen in the meantime, and I'm not just talking about hurricanes. I mean, we already have states and countries that aren't properly managing their current environment. What is to say that they're going to manage a quickly changing environment any better, even if there's market incentives for it? I mean, New York has to spend, I don't even know the number, it's millions and millions of dollars every year on pumping out water from their sewage system because of the environment that they've built the city sewage on.
I'm not sitting here and pretending that it would ever be like a perfect solution.
Yeah.
But I think it would be a better solution than just handing over the keys to the government and saying, hey, you have carte blanche to completely fuck with everything in order to build the best solution in
at all costs.
I mean, we need to do this together, but I have fucking rights and stay away from them.
And then you come to find out that some other weather event that no one planned for or some tectonic shift just throws the entire plan awry, and then you wasted all that time, money, and effort.
Yeah, too, because you're not talking about making sure that the floods don't happen. For example, here our floodgates are built for a once in a 10,000 year storm or something like that. It could be 1,000. But what's just gonna happen is that number is gonna go lower, so there will be a higher chance of something breaking through, of course. But
I'm wondering if
you're just gonna build your infrastructure for that.
I'm wondering if Dutch infrastructure could actually handle the kind of weather that we get over here in the United States, the hurricanes. Because you guys don't get hurricanes. You've got a big giant island protecting you and your position in general.
I'm sure something could be thought upon if the need would be high enough.
And another thing related to this, the the idea that protesting will actually solve anything, and we can talk about solutions to climate change,
Mhm.
quote unquote. Problem is, even if you figure out what you can do with climate change, I mean, there's some exceptions, and you work hard over a long period of time, you have to get China to do it. You're not going to get China to do it. You can't
True.
get China to do anything right now.
And another
Pressure isn't working too well.
big problem is that well, you need a certain amount of money to even care about your environment, purely on the basis of you can only care about your environment if your life is in complete agony every day. And for a lot of people in China, that's still the case. I mean, not having accessible, reliable power, for example, which
Well, there's been some studies that come out, and so I think I've seen Peterson referenced a couple times that once you get about 3,000 to 15, I don't know the exact number. Once you get to a certain amount of annual income, that's when people start actually caring about the environment. Generally, people in poverty don't care about the environment, even if the environment is negatively affecting them.
and you also need to separate the environment and climate. Those are also two different things.
Yeah,
The one is linked to the other.
but they're conflated.
Yeah,
They are, but they're conflated constantly. So
Yeah,
when
I've-
people are talking about it, then they're...
I've seen campaign posters with "for a clean climate" on it, like from Green Left here. I think.
I want really clean tornadoes. I want them to be pristine. I don't want any debris in my tornado.
We
Well,
need to have the cleanest snowstorms. We're going to have the purest nor'easters you've ever seen.
We're gonna get that Himalayan ice water snowstorms forever.
Glacial pure.
Yep.
Let's see. A finished article.
Yeah. Well,
Yep.
We can also skip the last part.
You want me to read the rest?
Sure.
Where we at here? Here it is. Their cause was promoted on Twitter by the BBC's John Simpson, who asked, "Since this is the most important problem our planet faces, shouldn't our children be taught about it?" Graham Frost, a head teacher from primary school in
Carlisle.
God, that's weird. Will propose a motion at the forthcoming annual conference of the National Association of Head Teachers in favor of compulsory climate change lessons for all children to include instructions in how to produce protest letters and banners. Ooh, this is sounding a lot like a certain group of people in a country called Germany from a certain time period. This isn't great. I don't like this.
Let's teach our kids how to rabble-rouse against the state.
Ooh, I want to
Okay.
make sure children's concerns about the future of the planet are being listened to by policymakers, he said. No, you,
Oof.
no, you,
Yeah.
you're a liar.
To go from this first very saddening and then, I mean, getting a bit angry there. Let's go to the next story,
Let's learn how to be anti-fascists. Come on.
which I know you guys are gonna enjoy. The
Oh, boy.
UK's new MEPs will be so terrible the EU give us anything at all just to get rid of them.
Now, there's a hot take.
So we know Carl's plan now. The Independent has uncovered Carl's plan.
It took them long enough.
Yeah, definitely. When Tusk and Juncker see what draws we're sending them next month, no concessions will be too big to get us out of the door.
Dear
You want me to
God.
take this one?
Yeah, sure.
Could it actually be that we had a Brexit master plan all along, and at the impossible hour it's going to come good?
40 chess.
Nope. Well, this is like some 7D astral planar chess here. Consider this. The UK has never known what it wants from Brexit other than whatever it wants has to be something it can't have. First up, to demand the impossible, we send them David Davis. They laughed and sent him back. Then we sent him Dominic Raab. Dominic got as far as the White Cliffs of Dover before making a mind-blowing geographical discovery, and everyone laughed so hard that nothing else could be heard. Then we sent them Stephen Barclay, and they said, sorry, feel free to start the meter, but I'm going to be a couple more hours yet.
So condescending, God.
And so now we're going to send them Deep Breath, wait for it, Anne Widdicombe, Andrew Adonis, Boris Johnson's sister, Jacob Rees-Mogg's sister, the ex-editor of Loaded Mag, Tommy Robinson, and a professional misogynist YouTuber whose real name is Carl Benjamin, who calls
Misogynist.
himself Sargon of Akkad, in an attempt to put some distance between his actual self
Oh,
and his own rancid opinions.
when has he ever said that he's using his handle online to distance himself from his opinion?
Well,
He's never done that.
to not quote the guy, but to paraphrase him, I think he said that it was just his name on YouTube, and that if he had known he would have gotten so big, he would have chosen his real name. But it's a thing now.
My
It's
God.
almost
What-
like he started off using his gamer tag as a gamer back
They're-
when he was talking about Gamergate.
Just want to play
They're
video
acting
games.
they're acting like he's doing a Tommy Robinson with such a name, but it's just an online username.
Oh yeah, Robinson's name is like Yanis or something like that, right?
I don't remember exactly what it is.
And-
It's
Lemon-
something yeah.
Yeah,
something-
actually, yeah.
And to mention that misogynist thing, I think he said something like, "I want all women and men to be treated equally." So, dirty,
I mean, he said a
dirty
lot of other
smear
stuff that's
merchants.
contradictory to that.
I mean,
He said a lot in jest. So they're clearly taking his jokes seriously too.
Mhm.
I don't know.
I mean, I agree with what he said there. If a woman is being
If a woman's being rude, it's fine to be rude back to her.
no, exactly. And personally, I don't really see a reason for a law book to even mention the gender of a person. Like, if you're legally a man, can you now not get abortions because you're a woman? No, you can still get abortions. So
Eventually, that'll be a problem. Eventually, men
There-
will be able to get pregnant. I'm telling you.
yeah, that's why a few cases of legal males have already become pregnant, D.kota.
Science. Oof.
No, not science, just people rewriting the thing.
Science too, though.
Yes, it is less than a month until the European parliamentary elections, which we have no strong feelings on because we're not allowed to because we're a 501c.
Right.
Which means it is also less than a month till the morning after the European parliamentary elections, when the UK's fresh crop of MEPs will come roaring into Brussels with that Mad Max biker gang that crashes the House Party in Weird Science. You can almost picture it now. The British freak show rolls into the EU Parliament building, only to find the doors padlocked, and at the fourth-story window there will be Juncker and Tusk screaming in blind panic.
Wait, let
You
me.
can have anything you want. Just leave us alone. The backstop, we binned it already. Gone. Finito alternative arrangements? You can have any alternative arrangements you like. Hard border, soft border, no border, Allen border, whatever you like. Pas de problème. Canada plus. Norway minus. Quadruple Switzerland with a front truck somersault for Grande Bretagne. Anything at all. Anything. Please, please. Just get back on the Eurostar and aller à Saint-Pancras International.
I have
I
to
don't know
say,
what
I've
those words
traveled
mean.
with the Eurostar. Excellent service.
What are those words? I don't know what any of that means. As an American, can one of you two explain that?
That's the St. Pancras International. And aller means to go.
What's the St. Pancras International?
It's
I
a
assume
train
it is-
station in London.
Is it?
Yeah,
Oh, I see.
used for international travel. So basically, they're saying
Who is Alan
take the
Border?
train back to England, please.
I don't know. I assume some figure of note.
Yeah.
And there's no way they'd give them a quadruple Switzerland. It's too good for them.
Well, to get
tragedy-
rid of them.
The tragedy, of course, is that David Davis will be entirely vindicated.
The second tragedy is having the name David Davis. 2 first names.
Can we at last agree that that is child abuse, D.kota?
Yes. Yes, I can.
It was always about who blinks first, he'll say. And when Sargon of Akkad is coming at you with his webcam and his edgy banter about which members of parliament he would and wouldn't rape, has he ever said he would rape anyone?
I think he said he would be, if they would try to convince him anymore, he might change his mind in his latest video.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In his comedy routine, of course.
Yeah.
Comedy, folks.
Even in the comments, it's all a joke. Don't take it too hard. Yeah, it's.
Well, you'll blink then, all right. Big time. And they will. So what we're hearing is all the European parliamentarians right now are essentially giant cucks who will roll over when people with contrary opinions roll in and start giving them problems.
Sounds like a bad fan fiction.
So, are you saying their ideas are so shit that even the slightest amount of criticism just tumbles the whole system in?
I mean, I'm not saying they aren't, but alternatively, the way it's being presented makes it read as though they have no backbone and are willing to fold in the face of people who just harangue the shit out of them. Which I would think, as public politicians who've had to deal with people rallying about anti-EU sentiments for decades now, they would be not all that susceptible to that. But for some reason, our writer here at The Independent seems to think otherwise.
Especially in this next bit.
It will be a relief, no doubt, to all concerned that these are likely to be the shortest, most glorious political careers in history. On Thursday morning, Nigel Farage announced his latest tranche of Brexit Party candidates. Among them was former Loaded Mag editor turned men's rights activist Martin Dawkins. I happen to vaguely know Martin. We have occasionally appeared on the news channels together. And there's also the time I spent 6.5 days sitting at a desk outside his office, following instructions to scour group sex websites in the hunt for content for Loaded Mag's Pornalikes page.
What a job. What a dream job.
This was a fairly standard task for people on work experience placements. I covered a passable Simon Mayo and Ricky from the Kaiser Chiefs, if memory serves, having been expressly told no Vialis. We've had too many Vialis. Just because someone's got a goatee doesn't make them Gianluca Vialli.
How to fluff up an article as much as possible for the word count. 101. It's like a high school. Go on.
In fact, I only did 6.5 days, not the full 2 weeks, because I was happy to come in at short notice to replace the previous intern, a female who had, for some bizarre reason, taken against the task on day 3, vanished, and never returned. Though she was not to be confused with the young lady who had gone AWOL the previous week. Nah, she wasn't working.
What is this?
I was told. This is just the private journal of frickin'. Oh, what is his name?
I don't.
This is Tom Peck's private journal.
What the hell is happening? Private political sketch writer. Yeah, he's writing a sketch, a comedy sketch. What the hell is?
No, she wasn't a workie. I was told by one of the team. She was writing a thesis. Our lad's mag's misogynistic. She asked if she could shadow me for a week. I fucked her on the Wednesday and she never came back.
Now I know that's a figure of speech there, but goddamn.
I should say that I have always liked Martin. He's more than entitled to his opinions on Brexit, which are widely shared. He's a talented man from an ordinary background, and the more people from ordinary backgrounds who get involved in politics, the better. Wow, a reasonable take from someone.
I hate this.
But one does get the sense that it may prove shrewd to be embarking on a political career that is not intended to be lengthy. One suspects there could be a few skeletons there.
Heck, you should be ashamed of yourself for writing this piece. This is awful.
Though, of course, the real tragedy is that right at the moment the EU will yield to whatever we ask, our demands will have narrowed to nothing. By the time they're ready to give us anything, what we will have decided we want is no deal at all. Really? Really?
No
I would
deal.
like to see your citations for that, because
No
from
deal.
everything I've seen, support for Brexit has only gone up.
Well,
Now, I could be wrong. What I have
You are
seen
not.
might be wrong.
yeah, I want no deal. No deal out of the EU.
Oh boy. That said, there is, of course, a chance that Sargon and Co. will work out what their seniors cottoned on to long ago. It's a 5-star establishment, the Hotel Brussels. Relentlessly complaining about the service is a lot more fun than actually checking out and leaving.
I love that they call it Sargon and Co. as if Sargon is now leading this political charge. I love this.
Uh, I love it more when you compare the
Always give
UKIP
your opposition power. Always do it.
when you compare the UKIP poll and Farage's Brexit Party, and realize how much of a lead the Brexit Party has.
I want you to know that half of this article is just his journal post.
A whole half of it.
Yeah,
Oh well.
yeah, seriously. Like, if you look around that article, half of the article is just his journal post.
And to be honest,
Personal
could you really blame them if they would use the services there? The comfy fucking services. I've seen a video
Yep.
about like the parliament in Strasbourg and the one in Brussels, and you can just walk downstairs at any time and get a car and chauffeur.
Here's the thing I don't understand. This guy is sitting here condemning people for taking short terms, and then also trying to turn around and say that they're doing it for the sake of the 5-star establishment,
That's
or
a nice
rather,
extra.
that he feels that they might cotton on to that. Like, which is it? Are they bad people for not wanting to hog up the political system forever and instead are just running on a single issue and then ending their careers after that? Or are they bad people for using the Hotel Brussels, as it were? Can you please inform me, Mr. Peck, which of your contradictory opinions you actually believe in?
No.
Well, of course not. That would take him being honest, and he is, to borrow a term, though I may not necessarily agree with the man, I certainly agree with this term. He's a dirty, dirty smear merchant.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, shall we move on to the next article?
Sure,
The
sure.
Wonderful, wonderful.
From a
next
comedy to a bit of horror, New Zealander pleads guilty to sharing mosque shooting video, and he
I
said,
will note that I saw the headline for this,
Mhm.
and upon reading the article, there's more to it than that, although I'm still opposed to it. It's not nearly as bad as it seems, but it's still pretty bad.
Well, okay. He faces a maximum penalty 14 years in prison.
Yep.
So, Christchurch businessman has pleaded guilty to sharing a live stream video that's recorded by a gunman last month as he began killing 50 people at 2 mosques. Philip Arps pleaded guilty to 2 counts of distributing the mosque video and will remain in jail until he is sentenced on June 14th. He faces a maximum penalty of 14 years in prison.
How do you plead guilty to 2 counts of distributing it? How does that even work?
Distributing it in 2 places, I guess, but maybe we'll find out. Prosecutors accused the 44-year-old of sending the video to an unknown person and instructing that person to insert crosshairs and to include a kill count. Prosecutors say that he then forwarded the entire chilling 17-minute video to 30 associates. So,
Jesus.
yeah, but what was he? Yeah, that's pretty fucked up to do, but should it be illegal?
I mean, that would mean that Encyclopedia Dramatica would be completely illegal in New Zealand.
I mean, I don't agree with what the dude did. I wouldn't do it. I don't support him doing shit like that, but I
Because
don't
of
think
the
it should be illegal. It's gross. It's stupid.
I
I
mean,
mean, people might find it funny because of how edgy it is, but that's a little pushing the envelope a little too soon for me.
fascinating how it was banned by their chief censor they have one of those. How do you have a chief censor in the current year? That's insane.
This current year is 1984, and it has been for probably about a decade now. We're just copping wise to it, bucko.
Jesus.
So New
Something
Zealand's
about those island nations, I'm telling you.
New Zealand's chief censor David Checks banned both the video and a manifesto written by the white supremacists accused of the attack, make it illegal to view, possess, or distribute them. And to talk
That's
a bit,
the one that really gets me.
to
It's
talk
illegal
about
to
this,
view.
how can you fight against someone's IDs without knowing what their IDs are?
Also, if you make it illegal to view, does that mean that if you were to take the manifesto and put it on a t-shirt and walk around in public, you could just get everyone in trouble?
that would be interesting.
I doubt it. I bet you'd be the only one arrested. Only when it's up there on Facebook for people to read easily so the law enforcement can do as minimal work as possible.
Yeah, no. If you click on it, then you viewed it. But if you see it out in public because someone gave you a paper copy of it, well,
Start distributing it as flyers.
I mean, and I think you can also draw an analogy to 9/11 tapes, for example, and say, yeah, but why aren't
Yeah.
those legal? You can also see
Well,
Well, you can also see plenty of
that
people
is
jumping.
New York. Distributing tapes from 9/11, I'm fairly certain, is technically restricted in the city of New York, although it would be unconstitutional. New York's got some crazy law stuff.
See, I don't know how to feel about the distributing of the video. I'm pissed off about the distributing of the manifesto because, like, yeah, okay, there are some really shitty ideas in there. No one denies that. Anyone who's read it, myself included, knows that there are a lot of shitty, backwards ass ideas in there. But when you say people can't read it, you are then imposing a brain trust on whoever presents the opinions that they know what the truth is, and you have to trust them.
One of the main points is that they don't want kids to see it. So what they're going to do is because the parents can't take on any additional responsibility, because God forbid you tell parents to be responsible and tell your children what to and to not do on the internet. They'll have the state do it instead. It's just another one of those things where you replace the authority of the parents with the state, the father with the state. That's really what it comes down to. The state becomes your caretaker.
Mhm.
Right, but the state isn't responsible for telling me what to think.
It is now in New Zealand.
Well, yeah.
Can someone find me a long length of rope and a bridge?
Move to the next story.
Yes, please.
Myanmar's top court rejects final appeal by jailed Reuters journalists.
Another sad story for the week.
Mm-hmm.
Ooh, yep.
Shall I take this one, or are you?
I mean, I can if you want, though I'm not going to attempt to pronounce
Here, I'll do
whatever
it.
that oh, okay.
I'll do it.
Sure.
I'm not going to give that name either.
Yeah.
D.kota. Myanmar's top court on Tuesday rejected the appeal of two Reuters reporters sentenced to 7 years in jail for breaking the Official Secrets Act, what a name, in a landmark case that has raised questions about the country's transition to democracy. They were sentenced for 7 years, and this decision stands, and the appeal is rejected. Supreme Court Justice So Nang told the court in the capital, not going to say that without elaborating. Wallone and Calso have spent more than 16 months in detention since they were arrested in December 2017 while working on an investigation into the killing of the 10 Rohingya Muslim men. They are being held at Yangon's insane prison and were not present to hear the Supreme Court verdict. They weren't even present to hear the verdict? Oof.
Whatever happened to having the right to face your accuser?
They don't have that there.
Also, I know it's a different language, but can we laugh at insane prison?
I didn't even catch that.
We need a little comedy to break up this fucking tragedy.
Oh,
Yeah.
there's so much tragedy constantly. Their wives, who had traveled from Yangon to hear the verdict on Tuesday, emerged from the courtroom quietly wiping away tears. Panay Mon and Wallone's wife, who gave birth to their first child last year, said she had been hoping for the best. Our husbands are good people, she said. We want them to be released as soon as possible. The journalists were found guilty under the Official Secrets Act last September by a district court judge in Myanmar's largest city, Yangon. They were sentenced to 7 years in prison. The Yangon High Court rejected an earlier appeal in January. The appeal to the country's most senior court, the Supreme Court, cited lack of proof of a crime and evidence that the pair were set up by police. Policemen testified last year that officers had planted secret documents on the two reporters. Wallone and Kyaso, those names. Kyaso,
I thought you were pretty close there, actually.
Yeah. Did not commit any crime, nor was there any proof that they did, Reuters Chief Counsel Gil Gove said in a statement on Tuesday. Instead, they were victims of a police setup to silence their truthful reporting. We will continue to do all we can to free them as soon as possible. Than Zaong, a lawyer for the defense, said the families of the two men plan to submit a lawyer to the Myanmar president when Myint office seeking a pardon, and a government spokesman did not answer calls for seeking comment.
Yeah.
This is happening, though. They're actually doing it to the Rohingya people. There's footage of it. There's footage from a distance of showing large crowds of people migrating like it's the damn Silk Road. This isn't debatable. This isn't the Armenian genocide joke. Like, you can't cover this up, Myanmar. Everyone knows this is happening. Everyone knows this.
And to talk about this, you see, for example, Amnesty International Netherlands complaining about certain parties that would be restricting freedom of speech because they say the media is well, they put it like the media is destroying society, but I'm sure that's not what they put it like.
The media is the enemy of the people, as they say.
That's something what Trump would say, but they are pretty angry about something like that, which, I mean, people voicing their opinions is fine. It's not like I've actually seen laws restricting freedom of the press in the Netherlands, and that's the thing. Here you have these things, and people just aren't interested enough.
I mean, in the UK, they can do gag orders on the media. No questions asked.
If you were upset about Julian Assange,
and I am,
you damn well better be upset about this. This is stomping on the rights of whistleblowers everywhere to report human rights abuses. And even though I don't really, agree with radical Islam, I will stand up and point out that what's going on to the Rohingya Muslims is fucking disgusting. It's an atrocity.
Are they a radical sect? Because I don't know anything about their practices.
I don't either, but I assume that they're not until I am told otherwise.
Yeah.
I have no reason to believe that they are at this point in time.
And even if they are, it's irrelevant. It really
even
is.
If they are, they still have their rights. They shouldn't be terminated and executed, especially fucking boys.
I mean, mainly speaking, they're not being executed. Obviously, that's going on, but mainly it's just forced deportation and burning down all their homes and villages and all their property. It's slightly different, you see. It's still pretty bad, but it's slightly different.
That's still destruction of property.
Yeah. Grave injustice. The reporter's imprisonment has sparked an outcry from press freedom advocates, Western diplomats, and world leaders, adding to pressure on Myanmar leader Aung San Suu Kyi, the Nobel laureate who took power in 2016 amid a transition to democracy from military. The courtroom on Tuesday was crowded with diplomats and observers as Sonyang read the brief verdict without giving any explanation. In a statement, the U.S. Embassy in Yangon called the ruling deeply disappointing. The convictions, along with charges brought against satirical poets, a filmmaker, and other journalists in recent weeks, point to an increasing intolerance for free speech in Myanmar, the embassy said, a
Yeah,
country who has 2 political prisoners.
it's not only deeply disappointing, I think that's the understatement of the century. It's a grave injustice. And they should call it that too.
Mm-hmm. Journalism said... Oh, go on.
Yeah, this shouldn't happen in any country in the world.
Nope. Except maybe New Zealand. Journalism, satire, peaceful protests, and other forms of legitimate expression should not be crimes in a democratic society, the statement said. The head of the UN in Myanmar, Knut Ostby, these names are fascinating.
I think it's Newt Ostby. Could be wrong.
Said the UN would continue to call for full respect of freedom of the press and human rights. The UN human rights spokeswoman Ravina Shamdasani told Reuters in Geneva that the judiciary had failed to act as an independent check on the authorities, and she urged Myanmar to act in line with the international human rights standard. The Reuters case is but one of the numerous others where restrictive legislation has been used to limit the right to information and to silence dissent and criticism. Sean Crispin, a senior Southeast Asia representative of the Committee to Protect Journalists, said Myanmar had criminalized independent journalism. We all know that Tim Pool can't go there now.
Oh boy.
The
Who would win? A government full of censors or one beardy boy?
One beardy beanie boy. The investigation the journalists were working on at the time of their arrest, which uncovered security forces' involvement in killings, arson, and looting, was completed by colleagues and published in 2018. Last week, the coverage was awarded the Pulitzer Prize for International Reporting. UN investigators have called for high-ranking military officials to be prosecuted for crimes against humanity and genocide over a 2017 crackdown on the Rohingya in response to militant attacks in the western part of the country. Nicholas Bequelin, Amnesty International's regional director for East and Southeast Asia, said in a statement after 2 days of that Walloon and Kyaw-Soe were not isolated cases, and there had been a disturbing surge in politically motivated arrests in Myanmar. President Win Myint pardoned more than 9,000 prisoners during a mass amnesty to mark the traditional Burmese New Year in mid-April. But rights group the Assistance Association for Political Prisoners said among them were just 2 dozens of political prisoners.
No, 2 of dozens.
Oh, 2 of dozens. Responding to criticism in local media, the country's prisons department said in a statement on Monday that there were no political prisoners in Myanmar. There are no homosexuals in Kazakhstan, in Uzbekistan.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting how they always say that.
There is no war in Ba Sing Se.
We've always been at war with East Asia.
Yeah, but grave.
It's disappointing. It's war crimes. It's also hypocritical, but it's mostly war crimes.
Yeah, I'm not war crime. Calling war crimes disappointing is a bit of an understatement.
Human rights violation. Who's the one that decides that? Is the UN the one that decides what's a human rights violation, generally, internationally? Or is that another court of some sort? Is that Geneva? I don't know how that works.
There is a Charter of Universal Human Rights that was created by the UN, so I assume it's their standard that people are held to when you're describing human rights abuses. Then again, considering the applicants and members on the Human Rights Council and
Saudi
the
Arabia.
Women's Council, I'm starting to get the feeling that the UN doesn't really care so much about rights anymore in current year.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, you mean the ECOSOC? it's yeah, the one of the acronyms was ECOSOC for something, I think.
Fantastic.
Here, United Nations Economic and Social Council is literally called ECOSOC.
I like that. That's great. That's wonderful. I feel comfortable knowing that.
That doesn't stir memories of a fucking Orwellian nightmare.
You can see I've been googling shit.
Yeah, I can see. There's a lot of breaking news during this stream that I'm not sure if we should mention or not.
Oh?
I think that at least us aware of who Nick Monroe is on Twitter.
Yeah, I know about Nick.
He's a very good independent journalist, much like Tim Pool. Mainly, unfortunately, there seems to be a currently ongoing investigation in a copycat of the New Zealand shooting.
Do you have an article?
No, I don't have an article. I haven't looked up articles on it yet. Seems that Nick
Well-
Monroe has been assembling the ongoing story at the. Although apparently there's already a manifesto.
Oh, God.
Apparently, the manifesto apparently is heavily influenced by it, and the archive's been taken down. Okay. Archive page is gone.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, you're witnessing history in progress.
Yep.
I don't know what has happened yet. If I cannot help but imagine that there have been quite a number of lives affected by this event already. I hope the best for all families of victims that may have been involved, and I hope that whoever is responsible is brought to swift justice. I don't think we can really afford
He's
to
been
say
detained.
good.
Yep.
I hope he gets whatever is coming to him.
Mm-hmm.
In other words, I don't think it's really safe for us to cover that without knowing what all else has come out about it. But please do keep abreast of the story yourselves. Keep your eyes
I
open.
have article here.
Oh, okay then.
Might
Let's
as well
see,
read it.
Sky News. So, a man held after opening fire in U.S. synagogue. 4 people are thought to be in hospital following a shooting at synagogue in San Diego. So, man has been detained. 4 people have been taken to the hospital as a result of the shooting. Twitter account for the sheriff's office reported that officials were called to the place at 11:30 a.m. There are injuries. This is a developing situation, the tweet read. An hour before the account confirmed the injuries, the San Diego Sheriff's Office tweeted that police were investigating reports of a man with a gun. Local roads have been closed and the injured victims have been taken to the Palomar Medical Center. D.kota, a spokesman for the hospital, said 4 patients were admitted at around 12:30 p.m. local time on Saturday. San Diego Police Chief David Nishlite, I have no idea how to pronounce that, said there is no longer threat since a man has been detained, but police will be stepping up patrols at places of worship in the area as precaution. The Shabbat of Poway was worshipping on the last day of Passover. This attack marks exactly 6 months since the shooting at the Pittsburgh synagogue, killing 11 people. More follows.
Oh, damn it. The last day of Passover, too.
Probably planned on that. Yeah, you can't say, of course, but I guess we'll see and how the story develops. Currently, it looks like no one has died yet, and let's hope it stays that way.
I've seen conflicting reports. Apparently, there might be 1 dead.
Well, let's hope this one is right in that case. But else, yeah.
Anyway, on that unfortunately depressing note, I think that's all we have for this week, unless I'm much mistaken.
Yeah, right. So next week, will Matt be back? Right?
I believe so.
Yeah, okay. So sorry for all the little small mistakes I made. And hope to
worries.
see you guys next week. Maybe with me as guest instead of the host. Oh.
Maybe D.kota will be back too. Who knows? We might have McCall. We might have JR. We'll see. If you're following us on YouTube, make sure to hit the like. If you liked it, feel free to subscribe. Ring that bell if you want to be notified when we're going live with a new stream. If you're following on Twitch, I do not believe we have subscribing sorted out yet, but
Oh,
you
no.
can always
Follow.
follow us. See when we're going live with a new video. I believe we're also posting on Facebook. Generally speaking, if you see us on Facebook, I'm pretty sure you're already following the page. But if not, feel free to follow us on Facebook as well. You can also find us on Twitter at Liberalist_IA.
Websites.
I believe we have a website as well, liberalistia.com.
And
So feel free to check out any of those. Links are usually in the description of our videos. Yep. We're also on Gab and BitChute. And Instagram now, too. We've been adding.
till next week. Later.